YouTubies, what's up? Spacebot here, coming at ya! Today's topic is Short Riders 2017. Everything you want to know from the pod, being a short rider, about short riders. So a lot of you know these tips, or the tips I'm going to give. Some of you will be surprised at what you learn. And for others, of course, it's review. Short riders out there, this is mostly for you, obviously. Tall riders, you're in the wrong place. Just kidding. Tall riders, sit and watch if you want, because there's going to be stuff that you might like or chuckle at. If you're a new rider, on balance, everything being equal, and you're short, you have to deal with the fact that you can't touch the ground too easily on a sport bike. We're talking about modern day sport bikes here. Cruisers tend to be really low, so I pretty much don't think about them. But a sport bike, a lot of people are put off by the fact that sport bikes are often very tall. And this is true, and this is why they can be scary to the new rider and the inexperienced rider. And I cannot tell you how many questions I get about height. Can I ride this if I'm this tall? Well, I don't know. What's your inseam? Now, typically, inseam is measured from your crotch, water mic, from your crotch to your ankle. Now, I usually measure it to the bottom of my standing foot, because to me that makes more sense. But if you know your inseam to be 28, that's to your ankle, right? So this is the measurement for jeans or trousers, and this is a tailor's measurement, and so that's the standard we're going to go on. But if I give you my inseam, it's going to be to the bottom of my foot. So you may think I'm taller than I am if I give my inseam using my goofy little custom measurement. First things first, when you take the beginning riding course, usually they'll provide bikes, and you can ride a low bike. In other words, you can get your license and pass your test on a bike that's very manageable for you. Very easy to what's called foot. Footing a bike is basically just being able to hold it up with 1 or 2 feet. And footability is another term that you'll hear me talk about, so know that. Not all sport bikes are created equal when it comes to height or short rider friendliness. The shortest, slimmest sport bike that I know about is the GSXR 600, and 7 pounds heavier, the GSXR 750. Now this has been true, water. I'm warning Mike about water, guys, on the Cena 20S. Basically, the GSXR series, since 2007, has been very slim and very narrow. And there are 2 factors here that make a bike seem tall. One of them is just the sheer height. The second is how wide the bike is. In other words, if it kicks your legs out, you're losing inseam, and thus, you're losing footability. So the R6, for instance, is a tall and wide bike, which has been historically very, very tall. I don't know about the new R6, the 2017. I imagine it's quite tall, just like the R1. But the R1 has historically been narrower and slimmer than the R6, and this has been true ever since 2004. The GSXR 600 and 750 win the title as the slimmest, lowest sport bikes that you can buy from an affordable manufacturer with a good quality rating. The CBRs are pretty footable. The 600, the 1000 are all quite footable. And look at my videos, guys. You've seen me probably riding bikes that are quite tall. They're all sizes. So I have a very good understanding of what bike is footable for someone who's 5'3" and, careful, water, with a 29-inch inseam to the bottom of my foot. So my real inseam's probably like 27, 28. So if you're 5'3" with my inseam, then you could ride the bikes I've ridden once you have the experience. And as you get experience, it matters less how tall the bike is, because you know what you're doing, and then you can focus on the height issues without it being overwhelming and adding to a constellation of other things you're trying to learn and master, along with muscle memory and whatnot, throttle control. So other bikes that are friendly for short riders, the new 2017 Ninja 650, I haven't sat on it, but Mike has, and it should be very footable. Historically, it's been very, very footable for short riders. I've ridden the 2011 version and earlier versions, and it's supremely footable. A great learner bike, even though it's bigger. It's not tuned in a way that's going to kill you. The tuning on a bike matters, which is why you can have a 1200 Harley that is quite soft to ride, you know, with a nice fluffy throttle, and you can get on an R1, which has less displacement, but will kill you much faster if you're not disciplined with that throttle. And I'm going to link another related vid here, but you can learn on any bike, but I recommend starting small. However, some people do start big because they have the throttle control, they want what they want, and that is totally fine as well. As long as you know yourself. Know thyself. Any of the 300 series are all supremely footable and excellent low investment, low barrier to entry starter bikes. One of which is the Ninja 300, which I rode for 3 years. I'm also moderator on a forum for the 300, and I've done a lot of videos about the 300. Love that little bike. That thing is super footable. The R3, slightly even more footable. I forget the exact seat heights, but I know the R3 is a hair lower and narrower than the 300. Any of the sports standards are quite footable. This is the FZ6R. Also the Ninja 650, as I already mentioned. The Honda CBR 600F, also very footable. Now these bikes, the ones I just mentioned, all seem to have heavier steel frame. They're going to feel slightly more top heavy, but the Ninja 650, they cut down like 40 pounds off that thing for the 2017. So take a hard look at that as well. Guys, we're basically on a scouting mission because it's been raining like crazy. Out of all the bikes, those are pretty good. And for other super sports, some of the tallest bikes that you might want to avoid as a shorter rider on balance, assuming you like all of these bikes, is the Ducati Panigale. Is fairly tall, and Ducatis tend to have an unkickable kickstand. They don't have a mechanism on the kickstand to make it easier to kick it up without being able to reach the ground. In other words, you don't need all of your inseam to kick the kickstand like the Japanese style, where they have like a little doohickey sticking out. Basically, you can kick the stem, and it's very easy to get a kickstand down like on a GSXR, as opposed to a Panigale. And also, I recommend for your first bike, get something that is inexpensive, maybe even used, and where there's a dealer close by. Because if you drop it and you need repairs for whatever reason, and you're not used to working on a bike, and you want a dealer to help you out as you learn, if you are going to work on a bike at all, it's better to have a dealer close by. To that end, the dealers with more locations are going to be the Japanese dealers, as far as sport bikes go. Careful, cat in the road, cat. Dog. That was a good use of the Cena, by the way. The little doggy was in the road. The small board bikes are all fairly low. There's the KTM 390, there's the Ninja 300 by Kawasaki, the Yamaha R3, the BMW 310 Standard, the Honda CBR 300F, and the 300R. The F is basically a naked model. And so there's lots of bikes out there. I think there's a naked Ninja as well. So you now, as a new rider, have a ton of options. And I recommend the used bikes. But if you don't go used, get a bike that's inexpensive, and if you drop, it's not the end of the world. But a bike that's high quality and that you're going to like, and that isn't going to spoil you for power. In other words, if you start on a big bike, you're going to be spoiled for power instantly, and you may be tempted to use that power. On a small bike, you're not going to be spoiled for power at all. So I recommend the small bikes because you can grow into that power, and when you're ready to graduate to a super sport, you're going to still have some thrill in that upgrade. I just sold my Ninja 300 to a new female rider, and that was cool. Nice to see her get her first bike, and she got a really nicely sorted 300. As far as making a bike lower, let's say you have your bike and you bought one of the lower bikes like a GSXR 750 or a CBR 600. What can you do if it's still too high? Well, you can get the seat shaved. On this bike, I had the seat shaved professionally by an upholsterer, and it actually got me about another inch lower to the ground, which is great. And make sure that your tailor or your upholsterer, if they do this for you, make sure they carve in a wedge. I'll include a picture here. Make sure they carve in a wedge so the seat is still narrow, and make sure you have the padding, of course. There are some aftermarket solutions to this end. Sargent seats tend to be a little lower than stock, but you're going to pay a lot for those. They're high quality seats, and you're only going to get a little bit closer to the ground. So if you want aggressive help with your inseam, then just have it professionally upholstered, and then they'll put the seat cover back on and all that. That's the first step. Other thing you can do is get my secret weapon, which are the Fray Daytona boots. And basically what I'm wearing are the Fray Daytona boots, and they're made for people with short inseam. So basically they add a little bit of height for you, and even though you step with your toes, not your heels, they are going to help you in general more than a boot that doesn't help you, because some boots aren't really helpful in that regard, or they're a little bit slippery when you put your foot down. These are handmade in Germany. They're not slippery. They're the best boots I've ever owned. I've had 2 pair. I'm on my second custom pair. and I'll include a picture. And these are in Space Pod White, but it cost me a little bit extra. A lot of women love these, guys love these. They come in two styles, the GTX Daytona Lady Stars and the M Stars. There's no difference in the boot other than the gendered name, which is gendered by size, which is really, really, really dumb, but that's just how they do it. So keep in mind that you could wear a Lady Star if you're a dude, and you could wear an M Star if you're a woman. So if they don't have your size, don't fret, although they don't have the same range that other manufacturers might have. Wow, it gets cold quick. Temperature just dropped by like 15 degrees. So what else can you do as far as gear? That's about it. Now what you can do, you can lower a bike. I don't recommend it unless it's a last resort. If you do lower the bike, make sure it's no more than 1.5 inches at the most, front and rear. And you can also get a kit that comes with a kickstand or as an adjustable lowering kit, so you can sneak up on the problem. You may only want to you may only want to lower it by 1 inch instead of 1.5. You may want to only lower it by 1/2 inch. So keep in mind, when you lower a bike, your kickstand is going to be too long. The bike will not lean enough, and it's more prone to fall over or get knocked over or bumped over. So make sure that your kickstand is adjustable. You can also cut a kickstand, but I recommend the adjustable sort. As far as gear, there is extra small gear out there, and it's harder to find if you're a dude, but it's out there. Dainese makes extra small gloves, so these are the Dainese Pro Carbon, which I think they're discontinued, but Dainese has other extra small gloves out there if you want leather race gauntlet. The main thing is you want to be sure that your finger size is accommodated. If the manufacturer did any kind of forming for female hands or female bodies, then the gloves should be different. So keep that in mind. You can also wear female gloves if you need to, and if you like glitter and love My Little Pony, then great. No, I'm just kidding. Some female gloves aren't branded like that, but then they should have male gloves too that are small. You can go to Revzilla, which is my favorite retailer. I am an affiliate, by the way, so if you buy from me, it doesn't cost you extra, but I do make a little bit from that, so it supports the channel. But if you go to Revzilla and you sort by size, which is one of the reasons I love their website, you can sort by size and color, you will be able to find all the gloves that fit you, or likely to fit you. And gloves will stretch, so if the extra small seems small at first, it will stretch to fit. But it's better to have that finger length be right than to be too long out of the gate. I will put a bunch of links in the description for you guys, including other videos that are short rider related or short rider relevant. For instance, my seat shaving video, where I had the seat shaved on this Daytona 675R. This bike I'm riding now is actually a tall bike, but it's quite narrow. But if you're my size and you sit on it stock, you're gonna think it's quite tall, because it is. Last thing I'm going to cover is behavior. So as a short rider, and MSF should have taught you this, you never need to put both feet down. You only need one foot down on your left, assuming you have a left foot. Some of you are exceptions to this, but you only need your left foot down. So if you get good at that, that's really all you need, even for a right turn. There are some rare exceptions with terrain, which might require a right foot. Always you want to step on the high side if you come to a crown. So let's say there's a crown on the road, you want to make sure you step on that high crown part, then your bike's going to be a lot more footable. Don't stop on the crown and then step into the low portion, because that's a recipe for disaster. If you're on a driveway, never try to tip the bike down the low side. That's true for even tall riders, because you will drop it. Ask me how I know this. Also, careful with terrain and gravel. Don't try to back up the bike on the bike. This is something tall riders do. This is not something short riders do. You can do it only if it's very, very level and there's low resistance. But if you're on uneven terrain or unimproved road, you do not want to do this. Back up the bike, off the bike, get it where you want, where it's safe, mount it and go. The other thing is, when you move your bike, you don't have to move it like a dealer moves it. That's another recipe for disaster, unless you know how to do that. What I like to do is lean the bike against me. So basically I hold on to the bars like this, the grips, and I lean the bike against my right hip. And if you do that, you don't even need both hands on the grips. You can basically have 3 or 2 points of contact and have a lot of control over the bike. You always want to have this hand on the grip though, your right hand, so you can use the brake to help stop the bike if you're backing down a hill or whatever. So once you get good at doing that, it's like a tango, it's like a dance, and you get very good at moving your bike around without any problem. And then once you're in a safe spot, which is low rider friendly, a good mount point, mount the bike and go. And don't be embarrassed about this stuff, guys. This is just what you have to do as a short rider. You have to plan your stops. You may want to pull forward into a parking lot space in order to lead more easily. There's lots of strategies you can employ that you'll have to think about. And sometimes other riders will lead you into an area to stop where you can't stop easily, or you're likely to drop your bike. Don't fall for that. If you don't want to stop somewhere, you don't stop there, or you stop away from that section. You know, basically you pick your stopping points, not other riders. As a rider, as a short rider especially, you don't want to leave your legs hanging out like some tall riders do. And first of all, it's a noob mistake. That's what noobs do. Even if they're good riders, it still looks really silly to do that. And second, you should get really good at low speed control so you don't have to do that. You should be able to ride your bike at a walking pace and have full control so that you don't have to touch the ground. So once you have that control, being short becomes a non-issue. Now there's some advantages to being short, right? Lots of leg room. I have lots of leg room on this bike. A tall rider might have his knees up in his helmet, and I don't have that problem because I'm short. So no matter how scrunched the bike is, I always have leg room. Another advantage, it's easy to tuck under the windscreen if you have to, like Danny Pedrosa. If you weigh less, which you probably do, then you get more power. It's free power. You have less weight, more power to weight ratio, right? So that's a good thing. The only problem you might have as a short rider is your arms might be short, and some bikes have a long reach, although modern bikes these days are all pretty much short reach. And I'm talking about the 2016 ZX-10R, short reach. Gixxer, short reach. This bike, short reach. Look at my arms. I have no problem reaching the grip, the controls with my arms here, even being 5'3". But I'm putting ape hangers on this. Just kidding. There are some advantages to being short. Embrace it. Get used to it. One more thing. Mike just brought this up, but remember, don't judge a bike by its stats. Sometimes a bike can seem really tall by the numbers, and I've struggled with this as well, mightily. But you really have to sit on a bike and put it in the boots you're going to be wearing to know how tall it is, because like I said, the width of a bike matters a huge amount, including where the pegs are. For instance, the FC07 is quite footable, but the pegs are kind of right in the way for putting your legs down. So what you have to do is you have to put your legs in front of the pegs, pretty much, which robs a little bit of inseam. Not a lot, but enough where you notice it. Still a fantastic bike, also a good, maybe a good starter bike. A lot of power though, be careful. So keep that in mind, guys, and thanks Mike for that. If you have any questions, just ask. You want to leave a comment, you need help or advice, please ask me in the comments. Don't write me privately, because I want my answer to be able to help many others that are watching and reading this. Check out my Revzilla link for the Daytona boots. Check out my sticker links if you like. And until next time, everybody, Space Pod out.